The week 9, March the 16th stand-up in the spring 2018 semester for Trident. As usual, we're going to be doing a round, introduce ourselves, talk about what we did over the week, talk about what we're going to be doing today, and if there's any problems we're having or if there's anybody else on the team that we need to talk about. This was also the build review day, so we'll also be talking about milestones for the next build review in 3 weeks. Manuel, why don't you start us off?
Alright, I'm Manny, designer for Trident. I was working on updating the rule set to include some stuff that Donald had posted in the design Slack. So I updated that, moved the table of contents around just so it fit with the page numbers. Added an evolution chart for the Leviathans, and I just used the regular abilities that I felt would make sense as an evolution, like cold resistant, heat resistant, acid skin, stuff like that. Don't really have any problems, and I guess I'll be seeing what I'll be working on next today.
I'm Shelby, artist. I worked on creating some simple hex pieces for the map, since some of them are going to have more detail than others. I want to go through and make them more detailed once we choose the pieces that we like from them. And then I'm also working on turnaround poses and sketches for the 2 approved Leviathans that I have currently. Get the turnaround poses to get those for John, so we can start 3D modeling them out and everything. Yeah.
I'm Frank, game and system designer. I worked on sector map and the zones for that map, and over this last week I wrote up a page how each station would cover their sector, movement for Tridents and Leviathans. So yeah, I enjoyed that. That was fun. Writing it, rewriting it, writing it, rewriting it.
Zachary Worrell, lead programmer. This week I just spent a little time just looking over my code, trying to see if there are ways I can make it more efficient and stuff like that. And other than finding a phone to start testing stuff out on, I've got really nothing left to do with the dice roller, so maybe I'll start something new today.
I'm James. I've been doing art. I've been working on the Tridents, and this week I'm going to be working on tweaking the foot concepts and getting a few more out there.
I'm Donald, project lead, like I said earlier. The things I've been working on, so I got about halfway through an editorial pass for both of the new rules versions. Also been just trying to hand out tasks. I've been putting together a Transmedia marketing plan. Transmedia is it's essentially dropping in-world, in-lore things on social media that lead to something else, to get people trying to figure out puzzles. For instance,
Isn't it just an alternate reality game? An alternate reality game?
I guess kind of. The first person I ever had it described to me was Cameron Dayton, who did it for StarCraft 2, and basically he set up Twitter accounts between some scientists in the game, and then had them start sending stuff to one another, and there was a website with like a password thing, and basically it was people trying to crack the password, and as you get wrong attempts, it would say, don't move, people are coming to get you because you've been breaching this law, for all the in-lore StarCraft stuff, and that generated interest. So I'm going to be looking at, I'm basically creating a plan for what accounts we would need, what we would drop, how often the content drops would be, also creating a list of the art I would need, because everything needs to look visually appropriate, and also trying to kind of get an idea of how sustainable that plan is going to be and how much it's going to cost, all those things when we have some money that can be put into the project. And besides that, I've been coordinating with everybody, getting tasks out there. Sorry I haven't been as communicative this week. I went from having a very empty plate to having 2 plates that I now have to juggle. So I'm going to be trying to balance that better in the future.
My name is Michael Shepard. I'm a programmer. Last I was working on PlayFab implementation, and I got everything put in for accounts and everything and all. But unfortunately, I found out that my UI for the test scene is very broken. And by broken, everything works. It's just that when you switch it to a different screen size, it won't scale properly. So I'm probably going to fix that. That shouldn't take too long. I've already gotten offered an offer from James to help me fix it, help it anchor everything down at certain points. So when I get done with that, I'm probably going to focus on Economy again, so that way I can get that working in client as well as on PlayFab website.
Holding that camera just reminds me how unsteady my hands can be. But yeah, so for this upcoming milestone, things I'd like to see, I'd like to have the finalized strategic and battle maps. So that's all art, everything. So that's going to be primarily what you're going to be working on with the design team to get that done. I'd like to see the Trident concept ready to go. So that way we have a Trident insert for the game book. Yeah, those are pretty much the two big ones. Those are the two things that are kind of the last slots we need filled in. And then probably also just doing some general, having general graphical bits, that way we can insert text, lore, things like that in different ways. That way people have a visual way to know what information is of what type. But those are the last things that I think would be necessary for this is released playtest version, 1. And then that way, part of what I'm looking at for the marketing thing is also different conventions and events to take Trident to. We'll probably go at Phoenix Comic-Con at the very least, at the public game area that they'll have. If not, maybe doing like a panel or something. Kind of depends on how much interest we're able to generate before then. And then yeah, just pretty much getting an idea of what budget would be needed and what events to hit up to kind of start generating a following. Because once you have that, then you can start doing the transmedia stuff and just normal marketing stuff, and you actually have an audience that will grow itself. But until you have those initial people looking at your product, that's the hardest part is getting that initial people, because then the network just grows. For the digital tools, pretty much I want that dice roller, if we can just be constantly testing it, putting it on everybody's phones. I think what we'll do for that is probably have you upload the mobile build to Drive, and then shoot out a message on Slack in general so that everybody can download it and play around with it, and then everybody can just send direct feedback and you can start tweaking with the numbers. Just because if we get that down to be solid, then that's like one of the biggest hurdles for next semester's development dealt with. Daniel, to tell what the online guys are doing, Daniel built the essentially hex grid maker thing that I showed off in the build review. So his next step for that is going to be then putting the movement system over on top of that. So that way we have kind of like an XCOM style where you drag the selector, or not even drag the selector, use your mouse. I guess if you're on mobile, you'd be dragging it. And having it auto-calculate how many movement points that costs. And then once that's done, we should be able to plug in your dice roller and your PlayFab stuff and actually have a Trident with stats be able to influence how far you're able to move. Combat, having that done and getting that done by the end of the semester would be really nice, because then next semester, as far as those core gameplay systems that we have to replicate is concerned, is combat and shops would be the big one. And if Mike can get shops done by the end of this semester, then combat is the one thing that we need to focus on, and then also making the art assets for it. John is continuing his work on the environmental pieces for the main menu screen, for what's going to be in the main menu screen in the mobile build. He's pretty much gotten his workflow down. He's building really clean models now. It's just now a matter of building the content and making tweaks and changes as the process goes to get it to be exactly what we want. Yeah, that's pretty much everything for the milestones. and everything for the stand-up.